Hello, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to review the Los Gatos real estate market analysis for March 2009. My name is Robert Whitelaw. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors and a certified ePro. Now, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can find my website at www.soldbyrobert.com, and there you'll find all my other video presentations, my weekly podcast, and also articles I've written on real estate. You can also send me an email at robert@soldbyrobert.com. If you prefer to call, feel free to dial 408-852-0525. If you'd rather use AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo IM to contact me online, use the screen name The Rebel Broker. And if you're a Skype user, the screen name is Rebel Broker. Of course, referrals are always appreciated. If you or anyone you know is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate in the Silicon Valley area, please feel free to get in touch using any of the methods outlined above, and I'll be happy to help you in any way I can. Now, if you're not in the area and you're interested in buying somewhere else in the United States, I can jump through all the hoops necessary to find the exact agent match for you. Just get in contact with me. Let me know what you're interested in, what your goals are, and I will find the right agent for you in your area. Now, let's go ahead and jump right in and take a look at the supply and demand numbers for Los Gatos for March of 2009. We'll take a look first at the inventory numbers. And again, it's been another bad month for Los Gatos as far as the inventory numbers are concerned. Again, another increase. What's interesting is that this is worse than the trend we're seeing in a lot of other communities in the county. This is actually a little hard to understand since Los Gatos managed to really dodge a lot of the negative bullets of the market really from the beginning. And it wasn't really until late in 2008, early in 2009, that we started to see Los Gatos having some market issues where other areas weren't having issues. And so this is just this is the first example in this particular review of the market where we can see what's going on with the market in Los Gatos and seeing the negative effects here. Now, the inventory is up 25.83%. That's 39 more homes on the market in March of 2009 than in March of 2008. And that's something else to understand about this particular graph. This is just the month of March going all the way back to 1999. So it's the same time of year. It's the same period of time each year. So there's really no seasonal things here. This is all really just market influences that we're looking at. And I think I mentioned that the total homes on market were 190. There are 190 homes currently on the market in Los Gatos. Now, as far as new listings are concerned, again, we're seeing a dramatic increase. Well, not dramatic, but a pretty steady increase from 2007 to 2009. An increase in the number of homes listed. Again, in some other areas, this trend hasn't been occurring. We've been seeing more flat performance or sometimes even a downward trend. New listings are up 10.81%. That's 8 more homes listed in the month of March 2009 than in the month of March 2008. That gave us a total homes listed of 82 in Los Gatos. And now let's move on to the sales numbers. And again, not great news for Los Gatos. We can see a steady decline in sales since 2006 with a pretty dramatic decrease over the last 2 years. Sales are down 42.11%. That's 8 fewer homes sold in 2009, in March of 2009, than in March of 2008, for a grand total of 11 homes sold. Now, here's one of the more shocking numbers, and as for those of you who are regular listeners, you know that I like to do the ratio comparison, and what that basically is dividing the total inventory by the total number of homes sold, and that gives you really a number that gives you two sort of insights into how the market's going. You can think of it as one way as how long it would take to sell off everything in the inventory if the sold numbers stayed as they are. Right now, that number stands at 17.27. So it would take us over a year, 17.27 months, to sell all the homes currently in inventory in Los Gatos. Now, what's interesting is that in last month, in February, that number was at 10.81. So in just 1 month, we've jumped from 10.81 to 17.27 months as far as how long it would take to get the inventory sold. That just gives you an idea of how dramatically the inventory has increased and how much sales have decreased. Now, what's really shocking is that Los Gatos is underperforming the county in this number. The ratio for the county was 7.19 months. So if the entire county's numbers froze and the sales numbers there for the county froze, it would take about a little over 7 months for all the homes in inventory to get sold. But here in Los Gatos, we're obviously seeing a very different number. Now, another way of thinking of this is the competition factor for sellers. For every home that sells in Los Gatos, there are about 17 homes trying to get sold. That is a very bad thing. That is an awful lot of homes. That's a huge amount of inventory. And really one of the only ways those inventory numbers are going to decline is if we see a drop in certain prices. So, and of course, we'll be looking at home price changes in a few slides, so hold on for that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the same numbers just over past months. Now first we'll take a look at inventory. You can see there's been a steady increase in inventory. Now we're going all the way back now to November of 2007, just so we can get a little bit of a view of what happened in the months leading up to March of last year, so we can see if there's any indicators we can take from that to apply to what's going to happen in the future here in Los Gatos. Now, inventory numbers between February and March are up 9.83%. That's 17 more homes listed in March of 09 than in February of 09. Now, if we take a look back at March of last year, we can see that we're really, in general, seeing the same trend. The inventory numbers really dramatically increased between February and March of last year. Not as dramatic an increase this year, but still an increase. And for those months preceding it, even right back to November, we saw a high point in November and then a dip in December and then steady increases all the way up till March. So from a standpoint of the trends, we're seeing pretty much the same sort of performance. Last year, it was actually even a little bit more depressing as far as the amount of increases we were seeing. So what does that tell us? Well, since we're seeing relatively similar performance compared to last year, I would expect that we would see our inventory continue to go up right up through April and then start to see things flattening or even declining a bit all the way up till August, and then another increase in September. Whether or not that occurs, we'll be able to determine as we head through these months. But given last year's performance and how similar the performance leading up to March of 09 is to the same numbers from last year, my guess is we'll see probably the same sort of performance. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the listings number. This is the number of homes that were added to the market. Now from February to March, the number of homes listed increased 38.98%. That's 23 more homes listed in March than in February. This isn't good because we'd like to see the inventory number decreasing, but what we're seeing is a lot of folks entering the market. My feeling on this is that folks are entering the market because they are feeling the change in the Los Gatos market. And this theory has been around for a while, and after talking to some folks who are listing their homes in Los Gatos, I think that's a pretty good assessment. A lot of folks are afraid that they've already seen it, but a lot of folks are quite as in tune with the numbers as they may think they are. But they are anticipating that the market may get a lot worse in Los Gatos, and they want to try and get out while they can. For a lot of folks, that's proving to be very difficult because there's an awful lot of competition right now for the buyers that are in the market. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the sales numbers. This is also a not very encouraging information in the short term. Sales are actually down 32.25% from February. That's 5 fewer homes sold in March than in February. In general, it's a downward trend. That's what the line down there at the bottom is telling us. That is the general trend line for sales, and you can see that it's decreased all the way from November of 2007 all the way up to March of 2009. So we've basically got these graphs all heading in the wrong directions, at least for a better market. We have homes listed and inventory numbers both rising and sales decreasing. The only thing that can really happen to adjust that, at least what we've seen in other communities, is for the average sales price to dip. We'll take a look at what those numbers are next here after we do a quick review of short sales and foreclosures. Now, first, what we want to do is look at last month's numbers. Last month, short sales made 13% of the total homes sold in Los Gatos. Foreclosures comprised 13%, and conventional sales made up 75%. So in this regard, we're actually seeing better performance. Short sales, 0%. There were no short sales that sold in March of 2009 in Los Gatos. Now, foreclosures made up 9% of the homes that sold in Los Gatos in March, and conventional sales made up 91%. So the vast majority of sales in Los Gatos were conventional. That's a good thing. It also is an indicator of the robustness of the market in Los Gatos as far as just the demographics of the folks that are there. The folks in Los Gatos enjoyed an awful lot of appreciation. Many folks are still way above the water line on their properties. Most folks don't owe more than the home is worth. However, in order for this market to correct itself in Los Gatos, we may see a drop in asking price required that may bring some folks who purchased recently real close to how much they owe on this property, and perhaps even have them be a little upside down in their values. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what home prices are doing. We've sort of alluded to what's been going on with that over the last few slides. Now will be a chance to get a closer look. Now this is the average sales price. You can see that between 2008 and 2009, we've really had a substantial drop. You can see that despite declining values in the rest of the county from 2005, 2006 on, Los Gatos was enjoying at least a little bit of growth on a year-to-year basis. Again, this is just the month of March going all the way back to 1999. Now, the average home price dipped between March of 2008 and March of 2009 by 28.94%. That's a monetary loss of $504,059. That's a pretty dramatic drop. The average home price was $1,237,809. So given the communities that make up Santa Clara County, still a very high average price, but it has definitely taken a huge hit from its highs of over $1.65 million. Now, the median price is also down 32.14%. That's a dollar drop of $450,000. Median price stood at $950,000 for March of 2009. Now, also keep in mind that the median price gives us an idea of where the majority of the action in the market in Los Gatos is happening. So as you can see, the median is quite a bit below the average, which means that the homes that are selling tend to be weighed below the average. So the weight of the homes that are selling tended to be just under $1 million. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of buyer dollars have been drawn more towards sub-$1 million properties. And when you've got a community with property values over $1.2 million, that can be a big challenge for a lot of the buying community out there. Now, what's interesting is that one reason why I think that this market is suffering so much in Los Gatos is the fact that there are no short sales and foreclosures. A lot of folks right now are very much drawn to those. A lot of buyers are searching strictly for those. They see those as the places to get the best deals. But then we are seeing some communities with higher end average prices, and some folks are seeing that as opportunities to buy in at a low point on some very high end communities and neighborhoods. So it's hard to pin down exactly why we're seeing this much of a decrease, but clearly buyers are just not there right now for Los Gatos home sellers, and it's going to do nothing but depress sales and increase inventory to the point where the only way to get some of these homes sold is going to be to drop some of these prices. Now, the highest priced home in Los Gatos was on 16330 South Kennedy Road. It sold for $2,350,000. It originally listed for $2,499,500, and that home was on the market for 104 days. What's interesting is that when the numbers are reported at the end of the month for March, instead of reporting 104 days, most of the pundits, the number that they get will indicate 1 day to get that home sold. The reason for the dramatic difference is because the home was relisted, which basically means it was taken off of the market for a relatively short period of time and then relisted, and that sort of resets the numbers. And unfortunately, those are the numbers that get used statewide to indicate the health of the market. Now, the lowest price home was 14274 Mulberry Drive. It sold for $600,000, originally listed for $770,000. And that home was on the market for 162 days, and that was a bank-owned property. Now, the average price per square foot for March of 2009 in Los Gatos was $567.75. That was actually up from last month, which stood at $551.57. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at these same numbers for just past months now. We're not just looking at the month of March anymore. We're looking all the way back to November of 2007. And first, we will look at the home prices, and we can see that they've just since January, we've seen a drop. Between February and March, we had a drop of 13.03%. That's a dollar loss of $185,462. And the median price for homes, the median price for a home is also down, and it was down by 21% for a dollar value of $252,500. And the total number of homes that sold was 11. You can see both of these obviously are clearly showing decline, and we've seen the same sort of trend, except for January, where we saw the median price above the average price, and that indicated that there were more properties that sold above the average price than below it, and that's a little unusual. We haven't. It's something you occasionally see in Los Gatos normally, just because of the way prices tend to work in Los Gatos. But the last time we saw that was really last year in January and February. Now, is there anything we can learn from these average prices when compared to the same time last year? Well, you can see that in January, February, and March, we saw a decline from December to February and then an increase. We didn't see that this year. We saw basically a slight bump in January and then steady decreases all the way till March. My feeling is that on a year-to-year basis, I think we're going to still see down prices. But the question is, will we get any sort of a bump in average price as we head closer into the selling months, the summer months? We may. Last year we did, but because we've seen a little bit of a bucking of the trend so far this year, I wouldn't bet on that. We may see prices remaining relatively flat, and particularly since the inventory now is just so busting at the seams with homes in Los Gatos. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how many days it took to get homes sold in Los Gatos. We'll take a look first here at just what it was in past years. Now, in 2005 and 2006 and 2007, we saw some definite increases in those amounts. Sorry for the delay there. I had to go back a screen because I clicked one too many times for my own good. Now, again, in 2005 and 2006, we saw the dramatic increase from between those 2 years as the market started to make its turn. So it was taking a little bit longer to get homes sold, but not dramatically so. Now we're seeing numbers that are the highest on record for the month of March. That's 118 days. That's 126.92% increase from the same time last year. That's 66 more days to get a home sold in March of 2009 than it took in March of 2008. Now, the lowest days on market was 3 days. The longest days on market was 255, with the next highest being 174. And if you're a regular listener, you know that oftentimes I'll look at numbers like this, and then I'll try to look for non-market specific reasons why these numbers have been artificially increased to such a high level. And I have to be honest with you, I have gone and looked at the data, and this is really a pretty darn accurate indicator of how much the average days on market were. We had a lot of homes. We didn't have one home that had some outrageous number of days on market that skewed all of the numbers. This is really a true average, which is a little bit of a shock. Let me give you how the numbers broke down based on brackets of time. Now, no homes sold before they were put onto the MLS listing service, and that's actually something that happens fairly regularly in Los Gatos, where homes are sold before they were ever even entered in the MLS. We had one home sell in the first 7 days. We had one home sell in 8 to 30 days. We had one home sell in 31 to 90 days. And we had 7 homes sell in 90 to 180 days. And we had one home sell in over 180 days. So given where they've sort of clustered and given the average statistics here, 118 days is actually a very accurate indicator of what it's taking to get homes sold in Los Gatos right now. Only 18% of homes sold in the first 30 days or less. Normally we see that number quite a bit higher, so this isn't a number that needs to be looked at more closely based on any unusual occurrences in the statistics for the month. It's really kind of a shocker. Now, if you were to look, now remember what I mentioned before about how some properties sort of get their days on market number reset. Now, this is without that. I look at the numbers as real numbers. If you're a seller and you decide you want to sell your home and you put it on the market and your agent suggests you take it off the market for 30 days to do one thing or another, or just to let it sit for 30 days and then relist it, you're still a seller who's trying to get your home sold, and you've been wanting to for an awful long period of time. So it doesn't make sense to not count that period of time you took your home off the market. That's what this number represents, 118. Now, if this had been calculated taking into account or leaving in all of those resets on days on market, the number would actually be 81 days. But I don't believe that's a real number to use. I don't think it makes sense. I'm not sure who that number really matters to, or who it really informs. Because if you're the seller from the day you decide you want to sell your house to the day you actually get it sold is the number you care about, not some made-up number that was arbitrarily picked by an agent who suggested you relist your property or take it off the market for a few weeks. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the same numbers just over past months. Now, again, you'll see some dramatic fluctuation in some of these, and a lot of those are represented by strange statistical glitches for that particular month, whether it's a home that was on the market for 700 days or whatever. But in this case, it's not, as I mentioned, it's not the case. It was in February of last year, but not this year. This is a fairly real representation of what it's going to take you to get homes sold. Now, the days to sell numbers from February to March went up 76.12%. That is an increase of 51 days to get a home sold. You know, and even though I point out that the numbers are accurate based on the homes that did sell, you know, I suppose you could always make the argument that this whole month of data was really off for some reason, because that dramatic of an increase, it just seems a little crazy to me. But we'll just have to see how this plays out in the coming months. And remember, this is a dramatic increase in days on market without an increase in sales. Now, as I've explained for other communities, when you see an increase in sales, that can often result, higher sales can often result in an increase in days on market as you're selling off homes that have been on the inventory for an extended period of time. That's not happening here. And that's why it's such a concern for me. We're seeing a decrease in sales and a dramatic increase in days on market. So it's hard to explain it by saying, well, you know, we're selling off a lot of older inventory mixed in with the properties that have been on the market only for a short period of time that we would normally see. So it's a bigger concern for me, and it actually indicates to me that we may see some worse times ahead here in the summer months, which is a shame. But if we're going to see any good news, with any luck, it'll happen this summer as more buyers come out. But again, I'm also seeing that a lot of buyers have come out early this year because specifically for that reason. They want to try to take advantage of some of these lower prices before any perceived increase in prices happens in the summer months. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the distribution of these properties. Where were they all located? We can see that most of them were down right along along the 17 quarter, right along where Los Gatos Boulevard comes down, and that whole wedge, the Los Gatos Blossom Hill wedge. A lot of the properties down there see a lot of action. I know that the properties I look at usually tend to be right along that corridor or right along downtown Los Gatos. No strange distribution here. Nothing outrageous that really brings our attention to it as far as trends are concerned. But it's also always nice to see kind of where some of these properties were located when they sold. Now, I do appreciate you all taking the time to listen to these market analysis. If you'd like to get in contact with me, like to read into the articles I've written on real estate, review any of my other videos, or listen to my weekly podcast, you can find those at www.soldbyrobert.com. You can send me emails at robert@soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. If you'd prefer to talk to me online, you can get me on AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo IM at the screen name The Rebel Broker. If you're a Skype user, just use the screen name Rebel Broker. Of course, referrals are always appreciated. If you or anyone you know is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate in Silicon Valley, please give me a call or get in contact using any of the ways listed above. And if you are anywhere else in the United States and you are looking for the right agent, and you don't want to jump through those hoops yourself, you get me in touch with me, let me know what you're looking for, and I'll find the right agent for you. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch, and I will talk to you all next time.